Welcome to the Top 1% Men podcast by LGFG Fashion House, where we interview millionaires and billionaires and other men who fit within the top 1% as verifiable by quantifiable metrics such as wealth, physical fitness, and other notable life achievements. On the Top 1% of Men podcast, participation trophies don't count and man buns are not allowed. All right, I'm going to start off. I'm going to tell you a story about the sign, to tell you the story between competence and incompetence. Because when I was buying from this company, it was incompetence. I wanted a sign that stands up straight. And so I wrote to them, I want a holder for the sign to make it stand up straight. And what I wanted was a stick-like thing that stands like a lamp almost, with like a platform in which we can insert the sign.
Okay.
And the lady replied... And I actually drew a diagram and everything. Just, I don't know what it would look like, but just an idea of there's a sign that I can just place on a stick with the thing, and to have it kind of hold there. And she replied, she's like, yes. And she literally said this: the sign will stand on any flat surface, table, chair, ground. And I'm like, okay, but what about the holder? She's like, no, we don't make those. And I'm like, so what are you telling me about the sign? She's saying that, and she's like, I'm telling you that things stand on flat surfaces. And I was like, thank you. That's very good. That's very good information. Anyways, the sign does not stand on flat surfaces because it only has two edges that touches the table. And so we don't have a holder for it. So, but you're not like that, Andrew. You're better than that. That's why you're one of the top salespeople at LGFG.
I try to be, yeah.
Tell me your LGFG origin story.
All right. So I had just graduated school. I was looking for my first job out of school. I knew I wanted to get into direct sales. I applied to everything, any sort of, professional sales job, everything from selling POS machines to selling, tickets to conferences, all kinds of stuff. The CDW was another company, and you. So, how that worked though is my brother put me in touch with a recruiter at Michael Page, and I had a meeting with him, and he straight up told me I was too green for him to be able to pitch me to one of his clients. So, but he said he knew you. He said, hey man, like this is what they do. Would that be something that you're interested in? And I was open-minded. So, and then we had, you and I had a couple calls, and, I went to follow Chenda in Toronto, and it was pretty cool. I had never been to the 56th floor of the First Canadian Place, in Toronto before. Never sat down with, any sort of high-level lawyer or anything like that before. So yeah, it seemed intriguing, and watching Chenda interact with these guys. I think Chenda was 26 at the time. Watching him interact with, a partner at Ben & Jones in downtown Toronto on Bay Street was, I want to be able to do that, So, yeah.
And I remember that when you came for the interview, it was, I remember that very well because I was sitting in my place in Calgary at the time, and we were having a video call.
Yeah.
Now, you told a funny story, and I kind of do remember that I didn't just tell you, come work at this company. I kind of did some stuff to entice you a little bit into what life might look like should you come to work at this company.
Yeah.
Let's tell that a little bit.
Yeah. You, let me see. So you kind of like show me around your penthouse in Calgary. You, kind of flashed me your keys to your Maserati. And you said, you've got a hot European wife. So, what do you want?
Yeah, she was my girlfriend at the time. Now she's my hot European wife. Yeah. She was back then my hot European girlfriend. Right. So that's a cheesy thing in a way, to like say, hey, look at the place I live in. Look at the car I drive. Look at the girl I got. That's a cheesy thing to do.
Totally.
If you were to, if you were to look at it back then and look at your life now, were there some parallels with that
between my life now and what you were showing? Oh yeah, sure. Totally. Sure. I mean, like here's my girlfriend here to the right, just stunning. And then I could have a nicer car. I choose just not to drive one right now. I'm more focusing on, investing my money and saving my money and things like that. But like I could go out and, buy myself a brand new Beamer or something like that if I wanted to. Living a nice big condo downtown Toronto. There's a lot of parallels for sure.
So it was cheesy, but in a way it was sort of foreshadowing that, like, hey, we're going to make you a promise. And that promise is like, if you do this work, if you do it, in a competent way and you're dedeveloping yourself and you continue to move forward, that this is the life that's available to you and you can move into that life.
Yep.
I kind of remember that because the first time you kind of told the story, I remember it was maybe your second or third year in the company. And I thought it was pretty funny because it was like a cheesy way to sort of entice you and show you what's possible. But now you are living that life.
Definitely. Yeah.
And that's a good thing. Andrew, what kind of moved you from being, let's say, average or even a little below average producer when you started? And that's a similar path for me in sales. You didn't know me in my previous sales career because I didn't start like as a top producer at all.
Right.
But what moved you from that and then into being the number? I think you were 2 years in a row.
2 years in a row.
2 years in a row, number one in sales in the globally in the company, and you're still one of the top salespeople. I mean, there's just a lot of competition for that spot.
Definitely, yeah.
But what kind of moved you from being average to being a top 1%?
A couple things. Number one was focus. I had a very clear vision as to the results that I wanted and what I was going to do with them. What's beautiful about that though is it was in the middle of COVID, so there wasn't a whole lot of distraction either. So it was just and it was a do or die situation. I was being told to stay home and don't leave my apartment. So there's there was literally nothing else to distract me. So it was just, well, fuck it. Like, what else am I going to do all day? Right. So, but it was definitely focus, having a vision and knowing how my efforts today are going to tie into the life I'm going to have, 5 or 10 years down the road. So that was definitely it. Because when I first started, I like a lot of guys, who are 24, is like, oh, I want to make 6 figures. And that's really like the grand vision they have for themselves. But between that day and later on, I mean, I sat down and I wrote out, this is exactly the kind of life that I want to have. I think I sort of picked like 45 years old and worked my way backwards. I'm 32 now, and worked my way backwards and basically just extrapolated down to what do I need to do this year, this month, today. So
okay. Did you have some challenges along the way?
Oh, definitely.
Sure, because and I want to preface this question. The reason is I do see a lot of people, when they meet the current version of you or they meet the current version of me or current version of somebody, we see the current version. We don't see what the past version looked like, acted like, thought like, was like. What were some of the challenges that have built you? And of course, you're still growing, but have built you to who the people that meet today? Some
of the challenges. Okay. Well, candidly, I've had cancer in the past, and that was the catastrophe that made me flip a switch. Right. I mean, I'll never forget sitting in the doctor's room. I just been told I had cancer. And I was waiting for the results of my CAT scan. So I was basically waiting to see how far it had spread. And I was sitting there and I was fucked up. I remember sitting there asking myself, okay, so there's only 2 options right now. They're about to walk into this room and tell me that I have X amount of time to live. Or they're going to walk in and say, okay, like this is, it's going to be tough, but if you just do what we tell you to do, you'll survive. And that was really it. Just kind of putting, I remember sitting there thinking, I am not where I want to be in my life. If this is how, if this is it, like if I have 6 months, this is pathetic. It's such a shadow of what I wanted, what like 13-year-old me wanted, 15-year-old me wanted. That was a catastrophe that forced me to just re-examine everything about myself and refocus, recalibrate.
So that is a catastrophic event, and most people aren't going to be faced with their mortality in order to influence them. But nonetheless, and I'm 40 now, and what's interesting is I know people, or I've known people now, like through my 20s and 30s, who have now died, which is crazy.
Yeah.
And I'm young, I'm 40, so I know it was like 3 or 4 people that I maybe grew up with and knew whatever. But I talk to people that are 60 and 70, and they're like, it's just a weekly event where you just lose somebody you know. And so, but at 60 and 70, it may be too late to start, building the dream life you've always wanted.
Oh, yeah.
Because you've lived the majority of your life. And there's a quote that I heard that I really enjoy. It says that on your deathbed, you will meet the person that you could have become.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think, do you want to have a life well lived? And for anybody that, has excuses as to the obstacles which prevent them from succeeding, that's about as big an obstacle as one can. Well, I wouldn't wish it upon anyone. And then COVID hits.
Yeah, COVID hit. So I was cured. I was cured of cancer in 2019. I rejoined the company in October 2019. And fucking 6 months later, every government around the world said, "Fuck you and your dreams." Yeah. So there we go. So. Yeah.
And so how did you, a lot of people in our industry, and for those of you guys that are watching that know, obviously we are a custom suit company. Yep. We go to our clients directly to their home and office. We touch them because we measure them, and we sell them clothing for work, and nobody's going to work. Yeah. We can't touch people. We can't go to houses or offices. So why didn't you just quit?
Well, I had no other option, what else do you do? Like, the world shut down. What am I like? Number one, I didn't have the results yet to be able to go out and get anything viable. And like, even if I did, what you're gonna learn something new in that kind of environment. It's just I've got no other option. This needs to work. Failure is not an option. I'm not going to go to the government and ask for like $2,000 a month, and yeah.
Well, a lot of people did.
A lot of people did, but yeah. A lot of people did, but what do they give up in return, right?
Their anus.
Yeah, man. I doubled my income that year. I doubled my income. I went from making $70,000 to making $150,000 to making $250,000 the next year. That. The fucking trade in that entire potential for what it was supposed to be $6,000, 2 months over, $2,000 over 3 months, or whatever the fuck it ended up being. But even over a year, over $24,000. That's pathetic.
So you didn't let comfort placate you.
No, I didn't. Because what was really frustrating was I had just spent a year, going through cancer treatment and surgery and things like that. So my life was on hold while the entire world kept spinning. And so when that whole chapter of my life ended and I re-entered the world, I was ready to go. I just wanted to dive in and get going. And then 6 months later, it just is such a fucking joke. The world stopped turning, and I just wanted to run forward. Right. So, basically that's what I did. It was a challenge. There were days that I didn't want to. There were days there was a day in February 2021 where, I was probably one sentence away from telling Jason I'm fucking done. But, so it wasn't easy by any means. But, when you're on the path to success, failure cannot be a definitive outcome. It is an obstacle along the way. Like, you need to fail. You're going to make mistakes. You need to improve and things like that. But you can fail, but you cannot be a failure if you want to be successful. Right?
There's a great book, The Greatest Salesman in the World by Og Mandino, where he gives the scrolls towards success. And it's Matthew McConaughey's favorite book. One of the scrolls is, "I will persist until I succeed." Yeah. And I was telling you guys the story a little bit last night at my place, where me and a few friends of mine, we reading this book every single day. Like, I can recite most of the chapters probably from memory. And I will persist until I succeed. But what we would do just for fun is we would reverse the principle to make the worst salesman in the world. Yeah. And so we changed "I will persist until I succeed" into "I will quit just before I succeed." Which, you see that a lot. People like just right on the precipice of breaking through.
So that would have happened. So it was February 2021 where just mentally I was shot. I was like, what the fuck? Like, I don't know if I see a way out of this. And then that was when I had the conversation with Jason where, I was one thought away from saying, fuck it, I'm done. It was the next month that I had a career best month. I sold $60,000, and then it was month after that, it was like $55,000. And the month after that, it was like $45,000. So that was March, April, May. And then the month after that in June was the first time I sold over $100,000. First time I made $20,000 in a month. So yeah, totally.
So, you know, coming in at like, from where you were 24, let's say, and then by 30, you're making $20,000 a month.
Yeah.
And there's people that make less, there's people that make more, but that's admirable and that's respectable. It's measurable.
Yep.
It's growable.
Yep.
And I'm sure you see that being growable.
Yep.
And then as you started, one of the things I remember about you as well is you didn't only talk about making more money. That, like, we talk about it here because we can measure that, but you also talked about other things in your life. Like, one of the things I remember you were saying is like, oh, it'd be cool to get a cool girlfriend. Like, that's something young guys talk. So it's not even something to be ashamed about. Like it's what do young guys think about, right?
Yeah.
That's one thing. And I remember Jason telling you, you know, there's a 6-figure glow. And I remember that's Jason's description. And I'm like, the 7-figure glow is way more fun. And the 8-figure glow, I mean, there's, I guess, no ceiling to that. But obviously your girlfriend is here with you today. And that's something that, like, how do you think that this relationship could have actualized had she met you when you were 24? Closer to her own age, might I add.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I tell her all the time that she wouldn't have looked at me twice when I was 24. Similar to what you were saying at the beginning, you know, people only see the version of you now. They can't really imagine the version that struggled. She has a hard time sort of believing me when I said I kind of described to her who I was back then, and like you can't really believe it. So.
No, you were very handsome, like from the pictures that I've seen, but he would not be able to handle me.
No, definitely not.
Why not?
I mean, it was the work ethic that I fell in love with. So that aspect of him not being there, he wouldn't have the same influence, you know?
The work ethic was there, but the results weren't. Right?
No, the work ethic was not there.
No?
Because then he would have executed.
So work ethic is something that, like, we have to become more granular with the term work ethic. So
Sure.
the schedule was there, but the head was not in the ballgame.
Right. Okay.
That, you know, and that's something that actually a president of my former company described quite well for me. He said that there's really two kinds of work ethic, but they're really one.
Okay.
He's like, there's the hours that you work, and then there's the work you do within those hours.
Okay, sure.
Big difference, right? Because a lot of people are like, I work 9 hours a day. What do? I sell watches at the mall, and they go to the mall and they're just standing there on their Facebook. It's like, yes, they are working 9 hours a day, but are they?
Right. They're at work for 9 hours.
They're at work, right? So it's like, you can show up, you can go through the motions, you can execute the things even that you're told to execute, but until your head is fully in the ballgame, you're not really there.
That's true. Yeah, that's fair.
You know, and so working 8 hours is not the same as working 8 hours. You know, and so now the difference, you know, if Cypress House described that, like, yeah, he was putting the hours in, but the mindset wasn't the same.
Oh yeah, definitely.
You know, the vision wasn't there, the goal, and that's the stuff that you do on your own time when you sit down and you write out your goals, and you do that, right?
I do. Yeah.
Tell me about, like, what you do when it comes to writing out your goals and setting your vision, and why.
Yeah. So every day, it's pretty much how I start my day at the office. I sit down and I write out, you know, 10 goals I want to accomplish this year, and then 10 goals I want to accomplish 5 years from now, and then throughout the day, when I feel my focus going off course, I start jotting down, you know, the top 3 goals, which is basically, this is how much I sold, this is how much I made, this is how much I saved, and I'll literally just jot those 3 things down constantly as the phone rings, and until someone picks up, do my thing, hang up, dial again, so on and so forth. Yeah, and it helps. It helps me to cut out all the other bullshit. And okay, this is what I'm here to do, right? Mm-hmm. All of these things. This is what I'm after, and this is, you know, what I'm doing now is what's going to get me there. So,
I used to do the same thing, and I do still, but my goals are just so vastly different now.
Right.
And the vision is, and the difference is between. So this is what I used to do when I was just selling before leadership, before building. Every Sunday, and this was in Toronto because I was working and selling in Toronto primarily, I would go down by Bayshore where the water is, where the ocean is, or whatever. It was a Lakeshore, I don't know.
Queens Quay, Lakeshore, yeah.
Something with water. Yeah. And I would sit there, and I would every single Sunday without fail. My wife knows this now. Like, Sunday after 6 o'clock is Demi time, because that's when I'll sit down and I'll write out my goals and I'll review my vision. I'll just think about the things I want, and I'll take like 3, 4, 5 hours doing that.
Yep.
And I have so much fun getting lost in my own thoughts, imagining the things that I could have. If I do the things that I know I'm capable of doing.
Yep.
And I would do that. The difference with that now is, in the past, I would write out what my goals are for the year. And my goals would be like, here's how much money I want to make. And I always have a car, like an idea of a car. Maybe I'll buy a Maserati, but I'll do it only when I hit this number. And then, you know, investments, et cetera, et cetera. And then I would have like, what my wife will be like in the future, everything, blah, blah. But most of my goals were focused on 1 year. 1 year.
Right.
A lot of it was like number one salesperson in the company
Yeah.
this year, number one salesperson in the company this year. All the notes I scribbled, number one, number one, number one. Now my goals are like 20 years out.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
so my decision just more longer term. And it's interesting because the work ethic is there, and for a lot of people it's there. But you change this one thing where you're now focused on a vision of yourself
Yep.
and what that life could look like.
Exactly. Yeah. And I do find it easier to have that vision, 10 or 15 years down the road, because I mean, if you have an idea, if you have these like wild ideas as to, if you were to do everything that you're supposed to be doing and that's the outcome, then you can, you start with the end in mind, you work your way back, and then you get it down to, okay, that means this is what I need to accomplish this year so I can accomplish the year after, and then 5 years and so forth. And then it's, okay, this is what I need to do every day right now. So.
Do you think you could have gone, so you're 32, you're making about $250,000 a year, and we're pretty open about that, and you're going to continue to grow that, obviously, because you're not here to stay the same.
No.
What is your income predicated on? Is it going somewhere else and getting a quote unquote better job? Like, how does a successful person grow their income? Because people are watching, they're going to ask that question.
Yeah, it's predicated on results, getting really good at doing one thing, right? Which is sales. I don't get a base. I eat what I kill, and I need to be focused and dedicated to the daily activities that are going to get me in front of people so that I can make the sale, right? So
would you ever go to an hourly wage job, even if it pays $300 an hour?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Why not?
So I did that once, and my soul died. I can't really describe it. It was I haven't really spent a whole lot of time actually like thinking about quantifying what was really going on with me when that happened. But I do remember for that 3-month period, getting paid whatever it was, and I don't know. There's no drive. There was no hunger. It was like. It was like, like you're a psych patient where you're giving you pills, to chill out and right. So I would never do that.
I think sales is really the ultimate red pill profession.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like once you get into sales and you realize that like a lot of things around you are just a lie.
Yeah. Yeah. You can't.
Crazy, right?
If you have to, if you're going to get good at sales and basically anything that is purely results based, you cannot live in a fictitious idea as to how the world ought to be, or how your glorified leader tells you it is, or like whatever, right? Like you need to be very real with yourself in terms of what is really happening around you and what is really happening with you as well. Like what are you doing to put yourself where you are, right? Because where you are is a direct reflection of every decision you've ever made.
It's a reflection of who you are.
Yeah.
It's interesting, people are like, well, what does that mean that like you're being paid on your results? Well, what it means is that we all, let's say in general, most people, maybe not all, most people like a little bit of personal freedom, like to make decisions in their own lives.
Yeah. Right.
I'm sure there are some people that would just prefer to be babysat forever.
Sure.
But most people want some degree of freedom.
Yep.
And we want some degree of being able to pursue our goals. Mm-hmm. And that leads us to some form of a democracy and some form of a capitalism.
Sure.
Meaning that you have a say in what you want for your life, and you have a choice in what you want to buy and sell in your life. I mean, that's just freedom, right?
Yep.
And the thing about capitalism that a lot of people don't like is that you get paid for delivering things people actually want. Otherwise, who's paying us? It's the clients.
Yeah.
And that's why this virtue signaling and living in a lie doesn't work in capitalism, because people, as much as we can say, virtue signal, virtue signal, virtue signal, people don't pay you for your values.
Right.
And that's the easiest and the easiest example that I use this example with new interviewees is they're like, well, you should get paid for, being nice and good service. I'm like, well, let's get real here. If I hire you to unclog my toilet, like if I'm hiring a plumber and he doesn't unclog my toilet, he's like, listen, I don't know how to do plumbing, but human rights.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, well, human rights. Well, here's $1 million. Like it doesn't work. He's got to unclog the damn toilet.
Yeah.
And usually the things that get results require us to do uncomfortable things.
The things you don't want to do.
Of course. Like, do you think a plumber likes poo? I don't think so.
Probably not.
Probably not. You know, I'm sure that electricians don't like being, 10 meters suspended in the air, working with high voltage, dangerous wiring. I'm sure that's uncomfortable.
Yep.
Your dad's a doctor, and from what I've understood, a damn good one. I'm sure that proctal exams were not his favorite thing in
Probably
medical
not.
school. Like,
No.
he didn't sign up in his whole life like, oh, I hope one day.
Yeah.
Those are just the things that you have to do that are uncomfortable. But that, and by the way, it's not 100% of what you do.
No.
Usually when you start, it's like 80% of what you do sucks because that's what you delegate. People who have gone up the hierarchy, they delegate the things they don't like doing,
Right.
obviously.
Yeah.
And those things get delegated to us. Like, I didn't like a lot of stuff I was doing early in my career, but I knew that if I became really good at those things, I could delegate and teach others to do them, and I can focus on bigger things. And have you noticed that as you start to rise up in your competency, the things you don't like become less and less, fewer and fewer in your day?
Yeah, definitely. And, but it's also nice. I don't know, just like you do notice things little things that you used to have to do that you're like, you know what, that's a waste of my time now. I want to farm that out to someone, right? Yeah, definitely. It's gratifying. It shows that you're progressing, right?
I think about it like cold calling. Like, I bet you don't remember the last time you made a cold call. Now, you call every day to your clients.
Yep.
But the reason you have the privilege of calling to people who trust you, like you, and give you their money with very little friction, let's say, is because you went through the friction of building that client base.
Yes. Yeah. I went through 2 to 3 years of cold calling and LinkedIn calling and just calling complete strangers with not a whole lot of leverage. Definitely. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so now, and that was uncomfortable, of course.
Yeah.
Of course it was uncomfortable. And now you're not doing those things, but it's because you did those things and you did them competently.
Yep.
And that's one thing I also, just for me, like I was talking to a lawyer client of mine about this, that I love about the idea of sales and building a client base. It's that a lawyer told me this. He's like, if I want to bill more, I have to work more. But if you want to bill more, you have to just be there longer.
Yeah.
Because I'm not stitching my own suits. For me, it's about presenting the ideas and the client buys them. But it's much easier now. Whereas for the lawyer, the work gets harder and harder and more complicated. For me, my life started very hard and complex, that sales, but it's gotten easier every year. If you do a good job, it should get easier every year.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, absolutely.
So when we see the salesman like in a movie or on TV that's like playing golf and getting money, we all sign up for sales for that life. And that actually is the sales life, but like after 40 years in sales.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But the real sales life is like you struggle for a couple of years.
Definitely.
And some people make it, some people don't. Okay, Andrew, I do want to ask you one more thing. So what are some of your goals for the next 5 to 10 years in your life?
5 to 10 years in my life. Definitely make the crack 7 figures.
So that's $1 million a year.
Yes.
$1 million a year.
$1 million.
Do you think that's possible here at LGFG?
It is, yeah. With the new position you just unveiled, division president. Yeah, I could totally see how you make $1 million now. I've always wondered that, and you answered the question.
Do you think is the path there? Do you think it's obtainable?
It's obtainable. It's going to be hard. It's going to be a challenge. It's going to require a lot of growth and self-reflection and whatnot. But it totally is. Yep.
Do you think it's obtainable for a guy like you?
Yes, definitely.
That's cool.
Yeah. I think so too. I've achieved a lot of my goals. Why not? So yeah, why not?
And so what else? What are some of your other goals 5 to 10 years?
5 to 10 years from now. Let me see. Outside of that, just, get married, start a family. At some point, definitely. What else? I like to travel the world more. I would like to visit every continent, visit multiple new countries every single year. 10 years from now.
Quick aside, what are some places you've been traveling to in the last 24 months?
Yeah, 24 months. Okay. So most recently, we just did a cruise with the President's Club trip. We did Spain, France, Italy, in Estonia right now. 6 months ago, I was in Prague. But a couple months after that, we were in Dominican Republic. Before that, we were in Leeds, UK. Before that, we were in Croatia.
Croatia was awesome.
Yeah, Croatia was awesome, and that was my last trip for a little while, just because COVID and whatnot before then. So yeah,
that Croatia was great. I still remember that oyster farm where they pulled out.
Oh man, that was
crazy.
That seems to be everybody's highlight of that trip.
That was insane.
Yeah, that was awesome. Yeah,
and then they take us to like this crazy lobster feast, and you're like, dude, I just had a oyster feast. I don't know if I can do a lobster feast, but we totally did.
Eating oysters and mussels like right out of the Adriatic, and then getting off the boat. Yeah, restaurant right there, and it was just a seafood feast. It was amazing. Definitely.
You would have liked the prior year's BC trip when we went to Georgia.
Oh yeah, probably.
That was for me crazy. We had these like private dinners. Like we had a Mercedes bus to drive us around, like a big ass Mercedes for our team. It was a bus that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And they would take us all over like Batumi and Tbilisi and just all over Georgia, like these great places, hot springs, whatever you can imagine. Mount Caucasus. I don't even know those mountains. Like those mountains are just like amazing. And then for each of the like organized dinners, we'd stop at some like villager's house. And there'd be like the whole village serving us like this traditional Georgian dinner. It was like, and it's very meat based, which I love meat.
Yeah.
So just all different kinds of meat, and it's amazing. And then they would have these like village people come in with their like instruments, and they would sing us live songs. They're like, oh, like, and they're singing Georgian songs, and we're eating these amazing feasts. And all of the villages also make their own wine in Georgia.
Yeah.
They have this thing where they dig really deep and they bury the bottles for like 20, 30 years, and they pull them out. And so they're cracking the bottles open. And Georgia's has maybe the best wines in the world. Like they say that's where wine was invented.
Really?
So the vineyards there are like incredible. So a lot of people there go on wine tours, and that was a big highlight for me from Georgia. And I'm like, this is never going to get beaten. And then we get to the damn oyster farm.
Yeah.
And then it's like we're on the Adriatic Sea. And we had just come from Split. I think we were in Split the night before.
Split. Yeah, the national park. Yeah.
Oh, man.
A dream.
Yeah. That was cool, too.
Yeah.
That was gorgeous.
Yeah.
I feel like I was in Narnia, to be honest.
I think we were.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, so I kind of took an aside there because mentally I just traveled there for a minute again. So you've created some goals about your lifestyle, about traveling, about family in the future, and is it fair to say that if you are true to your word, like if you do the things you said you were going to do, that the life goals that you've set for yourself, that this is a vehicle, LGFG Fashion House, this is a vehicle for you to achieve your life goals?
It can be, for sure. Yeah.
Can it be for others?
Definitely. Yeah.
Why?
Well, I mean, it's like we're not a company that no one is getting what they want because they're playing politics or whatever, right? Like it comes down to as you said, like fulfilling being true to your word, fulfilling your promises, doing the things every day that you need to do. So we are a results-based company, right? You get what you put into, and it's fair, basically.
You get what you deserve, unfortunately.
You get what you deserve. Exactly. Yeah. If you want a raise, pick up the phone and dial, right? We can ask for a raise at any point in the day.
Yeah.
Right.
And we do lots.
And not from you. It's not from you.
Well,
not from
but
you.
I'll teach you how to ask the raise.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm only one person. We have millions of prospects, right?
Yeah.
A question for you, Andrew, and this will be my last question. What's the favorite part about your job at LGFG? What's your favorite thing?
My favorite part.
Aside from it, for those that don't know, this guy Andrew is the guy that actually is. You actually are Jordan Peterson's tailor.
I'm Jordan Peterson's clothier.
Yeah.
That was definitely, man, my whole fucking life. I'm gonna be like, I've actually got a folder in my personal Google Drive. This is proof I know Jordan Peterson. Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty cool. But no, favorite overall, man.
Cool. Are you proving it to yourself? I just want to make sure.
No, honestly, man. Like the other time that I saw him, I was I showed up to his house. The security guy was outside, and he's LGFG. I'm like, yeah, that's right, man. He lets me into his house. No one's there. He says, yeah, go up to his office.
Okay.
I'm sitting in his office. I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, I don't know. Like I'm sitting in Jordan Peterson's office, and then he walks in after doing a podcast with Gad Sad. Wearing one of our suits, and every time I'm in front of him, I can't fucking believe that I'm talking to the man. Yeah, that's an appointment I'm always prepared for. Like I always make sure that I watch at least one of his podcasts or something like that beforehand, because you got to be he's he's on the ball, man. He's incredibly sharp. Yeah, you don't ever want to show up unprepared with him. So that's amazing. But in terms of the overall like day-to-day and whatnot, man, I mean, it's a similar thing. It's the clients. I've got an amazing network of clients, made up of top performers of, banks and private wealth, entrepreneurs, guys who have done, $1 billion worth of land deals in the past year, past 10 years. What else? Lots of, other like small business owners and CEOs on Bay Street. It's really gratifying just be able to call these guys and have a conversation with them. Just, get 30 minutes on their calendar. You show up and, we're just a couple guys hanging out. I'm literally just hanging out with these, some of the most successful guys in our society, and they buy clothes from me. I mean, that's it. It's amazing. And that network is going to pay dividends, forever. And not just in like knowing the people that I know, but also knowing that, like, I know how to meet those guys. I know how to talk to those guys. I know how to get in front of those guys. And that is that was a skill set that you said, man, like stick with me, do what I tell you what you're going to do. And that's what you're going to get. And it is exactly that is the hidden value of this career as well, right? That network. And it's ultimately, one of the biggest reasons why I decided to join the company back in 2015 is because the value of that is incalculable, right?
Yeah.
So
it's a privilege to work with the people we work with. I'm
Yeah.
sometimes shocked at the people I hang out with. I'm like, am I really here?
Yeah. Yeah.
They
Definitely.
let me in,
Yeah.
and that feeling, I talked to Russell Peters, the comedian, about this. We have it on video as well. And he said that feeling that just never goes away. Like
Okay. Wow.
he has a story. We were on camera. We filmed this. He was saying, he's at his place and his friends are over. And by his friends is Dave Chappelle, Eddie Murphy, Jim Carrey,
Right. Yeah.
Leo DiCaprio, Bob De Niro.
Yeah.
And he's sitting there going like, is this really happening?
Right. Yeah.
Am I really here?
Yeah.
And I wonder if all the guys in the room are thinking that a little bit, but I don't know.
Yeah. Probably. Yeah. We're all
listen,
just guys, so
better to be there than not to be there.
definitely.
Better to have a folder that says proof I know Jordan Peterson.
Yeah, exactly.
Then-
You have
then not.
imposter syndrome. Fuck it, man. Worry about that later. You're there.
Imposter syndrome's a good problem.
Yeah, definitely.
Like that's
Oh,
a
yeah.
privileged problem.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, man. I appreciate you. I appreciate you sharing your story. I appreciate the work you put in, and I'm sure your clients appreciate you as much as I appreciate you because of the work you do for them. And I hope that the folks that watch this down the line, maybe a year from now, maybe 20 years from now, nobody will believe this is you, by the way,
Yeah.
because you'll be a totally
Totally different guy.
Yeah, you'll be like, and they'll be like, what? Andrew was making $250,000 at some point.
Yeah.
Really? That only?
Yeah.
Like this multi.
I'll have that thought, man. There would be times it's like, holy shit,
Yeah.
like, man, 20, like I'm fighting like hell to make 20 grand in a month, and like, okay, like I'm safe now. But yeah, man, fuck. One day, why not in a day, right?
Yeah.
I mean, why not?
Sure.
So yeah.
I guarantee that'll happen.
Yeah.
We had a clothier do that last month.
Okay.
Like,
Wow.
pulled in 20K in a day.
Oh, he did. Yeah. Fair enough. He did actually.
A rookie, but that happened.
Yeah.
Chanda's got those things happening
Yeah.
too. I mean, we have people that are advanced enough, and you're there too. I mean, you're in the mix. So, very proud of you. I think that's something I should say publicly. Very proud of you, because I'm not sure Cyprus would have noticed you.
No.
On any metric 5, 6, 7 years ago. Just very different guy. And honestly, and I'll just say, I know you hate the story, but I think it's a powerful story.
I do hate this story.
But like going from, hey man, the conversations we have when, hey, can you not smoke weed in the office?
Fucking.
That's fine, whatever.
Yeah.
To like a conversation like, hey man, I'm really proud of you for having your best month and breaking a record. That's
Yeah.
that is a big jump, and I'm excited to see what kind of conversations we can have in 10 or 20 years. And I'm not sure where we'll be, but I'm sure it'll be somewhere very fancy and exclusive, a place on the planet we don't even know exists yet, because people aren't told about it until they can afford it. And there are places like that. So I look forward to that. And thanks.
Yeah. Appreciate it too, Demi. Thank you, man.